Ladies and gentlemen, Troy Smith here with Slingshot TV. It's been a tremendously successful week of shows. I want to thank everybody out there for making it successful, for sharing, commenting, retweeting, and liking the shows. It's been a hell of a week for me. Three different Stone Zone appearances with great guests like Joseph McBride, the attorney for the Tates, who also represents about 25 J6 defendants, as well as so many other interviews throughout the week. Robert Davi, a legend in his own right, and so many more. So a tremendous week here, folks, and we've covered some great topics. We've discussed President Trump and his cabinet. We've discussed Joe Biden and his past. And today we're going to be diving into just general corruption in Washington, D.C. And that starts our journey off on this monologue. Trump is the only politician that has actually lost money serving his country. The Constitution is pretty clear about using a public office for private gain. Simply put, you can't do it. It's what's called the Emoluments Clause. And Democrats haven't been shy about going after President Trump under the Emoluments Clause. The Attorney Generals of Maryland and the District of Columbia both filed lawsuits early on in Trump's first term claiming he violated the Emoluments Clause because, and I'm not making this up, foreign and domestic officials would pay to stay at Trump's hotels and eat at his restaurants. And of course, D.C. and Baltimore are two of the most violent cities in America. But these Democrat attorneys general thought it was a better use of their time to ignore the murders and the killing going on in their own backyards and to instead grandstand on a political issue so that they could attack Donald Trump, something that had never been done in American history. No American politician has ever been required to sell off their assets, and most politicians have had to replace their assets or replace them, I should say, into blind trust or turn over their companies to be managed by someone else during the term that they serve. So what ended up happening in this anti-Trump case, the Supreme Court threw the case out because it had no basis. It had no legitimacy. And once again, the Democrat attack on Donald Trump had been revealed to be nothing but that, a political attack with no basis in reality. Of course, the very obvious problem with the Democrats arguing that Trump is using his position for personal gain is that Trump is the only president in recent American history who came out of the White House poorer than he went in. In fact, Trump lost more than twice as much money as president than the two Bushes, Clinton, and Obama made as presidents combined. We have a graphic there that just shows some of the substantial differences between Democrat politicians, establishment Republican politicians, and Donald Trump. Now, to be fair, a lot of the money that Trump has is from book deals, or from these politicians I should say, is from book deals and speaking appearances. Corporations love to throw money at former presidents who are willing to show up and say a few words at their annual meetings. And for Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary, is a major political force herself, so that kind of led to their creation of wealth. And it's allowed Bill Clinton to kind of go to these meetings, make these speeches, and make millions of dollars using his wife and access to his wife, really selling that, whether she was Secretary of State or Senate, in the Senate. And in the 15 years between 2001 and 2016, Bill and Hillary Clinton together made $153 million in speaking fees alone. But folks, if you're going to argue in a court of law that Trump is profiting off his position as president, then maybe you should try showing that Trump is actually making a profit, because he's clearly not making the profit that shows he's, quote, profiting off this position as president of the United States. Unfortunately, what we can expect from leftist state attorneys general over the next 4 years is more ridiculous lawfare. And for no other reason than these attorneys general were told by their political masters to hate Donald Trump and to attack him and waste the courts system's time and money. But by focusing on lawsuits whose only purpose is to make Trump look bad, these leftist attorneys generals are not spending the time needed to prosecute the murderers. the rapists and the killers that have destroyed our cities, cities like Chicago, cities like Baltimore and St. Louis that were once beacons for freedom across the world. People would travel thousands of miles, traverse the entire globe to see the manufacturing paradise that was Chicago, the manufacturing paradise that was Detroit. Now those cities sit in ruin, and it's all because of Democrat control. And while these cities decay, these Democrats continue to attack President Trump. So financial corruption in the government is so bad that nobody is going after the Bidens, despite the massive evidence that exists against them. Speaking of politicians profiting off of their positions, why isn't anybody seriously going after Joe Biden and his family for the money they have all received from Ukraine? Not to mention Russia and Kazakhstan. The bank records have been public for 18 months, but the whole issue seems to have died. Whistleblowers from the Internal Revenue Service testified a few months ago that not only was President Joe Biden the big guy in Hunter's infamous 10% for the big guy email, but also that anything they did to investigate Hunter Biden's taxes had to receive special permission. In other words, Biden was directing his own IRS to give his son preferential treatment. IRS whistleblower Greg Shapley said this was the only time he was required to receive special permissions for every action he took on the Hunter Biden case. And we have a quote from that individual, a whistleblower, Gary Shapley, says, when it was Hunter Biden, it was required additional approvals for every single thing that we did. Meanwhile, the local businessman, I don't need any special permissions. I just go and do the investigation. But it's not like anybody can go after Hunter Biden because he was pardoned by his dad. President Joe Biden, after months of saying he wouldn't pardon his son, he finally did actually pardon his son. And despite the fact that his press secretary and everybody in his administration has said that he wouldn't pardon his son, he did. And Hunter Biden must be the only person in American history who was pardoned for a crime he hasn't even been charged for. And Hunter wasn't just pardoned for one crime he wasn't charged for. He was pardoned for 10 years worth of crimes that he had never been charged for at all. Do any of us expect anything to happen to Joe Biden for profiting off his position as president in clear violation of the Emoluments Clause in the U.S. Constitution? Of course we don't. Nor do we expect anybody in Biden's family who received millions of dollars of foreign money to be held accountable either. And what happened when President Donald Trump performed his duties under Article 2 of the Constitution and merely questioned Joe Biden's relationship with Ukraine? We all know what happened there. We had the first of two fake impeachments that were actually intended by the D.C. elite, Democrats and Republicans alike, to keep Trump out of office for another 4 years. I've said it before, folks. These D.C. elites are so dumb, they think Americans can't see through these transparent attempts to frame President Trump and keep him from asking questions, important questions, about their financial corruption. They are so arrogant, so high on their horse, that they're only now starting to understand that in their quest to illegally destroy President Trump, they drew huge amounts of attention to what they were doing. And it took Trump's massive landslide victory in November to wake them up. So Nancy Pelosi really is the poster child for insider trading, but nobody says anything, kind of along the same lines as Joe Biden's corruption. On average, the S&P 500 has returned about 10% increases each year since 1957. This means if you wanted to invest your money in stocks held by companies representing the S&P 500, you would make about 10% a year on your investment. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, who's arguably the world's foremost guru of stock trading, made 23% in 2024 and 19% return in 2023. This is why thousands of investors try to squeeze into a convention where Warren Buffett is speaking. The guy can make a person very, very rich. People come from all over the world to hear Warren Buffett talk about stocks. Now, what about Nancy Pelosi, our nation's on-again, off-again Speaker of the House, who has now been relegated to pretty much irrelevancy, lurking in the shadows of the Democrat Party with her hand up the behind of Hakeem Jeffries, working him like a puppet? Nancy Pelosi astoundingly destroyed Warren Buffett in 2023, gaining an astounding 65% on her stock investments. This is right. Nancy Pelosi nearly tripled the outcome of the world's foremost stock guru, Warren Buffett. And the official number is 3.4 times, folks. So why isn't Warren Buffett taking stock advice from Nancy Pelosi? And why isn't Nancy Pelosi selling out investment conventions all over the world? It's because Nancy Pelosi's level of performance in stock trading is so incredible that it should be enough to get any competent federal agency to even simply take a glance at what is happening. The IRS should be looking at her taxes. The FEC should be reviewing her stock trades. The House Ethics Committee should be involved. These agencies should be reviewing her records and officially announcing that everything's okay with her stock trade, but nobody does anything. But of course, we know the truth here. Nancy Pelosi is the nation's foremost insider trader. So why isn't anybody in the government looking at her trades? Not even under Republican administrations. They simply turn the other cheek. They refuse to look at it. And that's because everybody in charge of the country is committing the same exact crime, except Donald Trump, who is the only president in recent history to have lost money serving his country. So to wrap things up, there's a very specific part of the Constitution that forbids elected officials from profiting off their positions. But the financial corruption in D.C. is incredible because the people in charge of the investigators are the ones committing the crime. In fact, the only person punished in this whole financial scheme has been Donald Trump. And he was impeached for asking questions about why the Bidens were making so much money from Ukraine and Russia and China and even Kazakhstan. To add to this, he was sued by corrupt leftist attorneys general because foreign dignitaries might have stayed in one of his many hotels or dined in one of his many restaurants. But what is Trump supposed to do? Let these foreign dignitaries stay in his hotels and eat for free or turn away their business? If he did that, then these same attorneys generals would be suing Trump for illegally giving foreign representatives free gifts. Our government is hopelessly corrupt. And corrupt to the point where they'll wage lawfare on anybody who calls out their corruption, just like Donald Trump did. As for Nancy Pelosi, she should be in jail, and for a very long time. It seems obvious, but everybody's scared to say it. But nothing will ever happen to her, and any politician routinely outperforming Warren Buffett by a factor of 3.5 times should assuredly have questions asked about her conduct, but nothing is ever stated. I don't think many of us common people in America want to see Nancy Pelosi stop what she's doing. I think we're all amazed at the scale of her theft. Joe and Hunter Biden's financial crimes with Ukraine might anger us, but Nancy Pelosi's insider trading is like a form of entertainment to Americans. There's entire Twitter accounts dedicated to her stock trades and the fantastical nature of her corruption. Watching Nancy Pelosi steal money without caring is like watching an episode of Squid Games. You keep watching to see what outrageous thing will happen next. And America keeps watching to see how much Nancy Pelosi will steal next. Well, folks, we have a tremendous show to get to. The corruption in Washington, D.C. I love highlighting that, especially Nancy Pelosi, because here's a woman who, as I just stated, 3.4 times this woman outperforms Warren Buffett in stock trading. Yet nobody has asked any questions. She's not been investigated. Yet all you have to do is be a conservative in this country, and you'll have the IRS knocking on your door. You'll have the FBI asking you questions. And all in all, folks, you have a situation where your country degrades. And that's what we've seen under Nancy Pelosi. We're going to get into a lot more news here, folks, today, but I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to encourage you, if you're watching this on MSN, you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching this on Rumble or Twitter or TikTok or Facebook, wherever you're watching, go ahead and give us a follow. Make sure you like the video, give us a heart, and share it with your friends and family. Hit the share button and send it in Messenger, post it to your feed. Make sure that as many people as possible see this episode so we can continue to expose epic corruption in Washington, D.C. on both aisles politically. It's important work. A lot of people shy away from it, but if somebody doesn't do it, folks, the truth will be hidden, and we can't have that. The truth is the answer to the corruption in Washington, D.C. You know, just doing this job, folks, I've encountered so many politicians, and one of the most interesting things that I find is it's almost 100% of the time that those who have a belief in God, who publicly state their subservience to Jesus Christ, you know, we serve Jesus Christ, Christ is King. When you see those individuals in politics, they're usually the grounded ones, the ones that you're amazed by, that have great work ethics, that produce great works. Those people end up being the good people. And those who are atheists and who publicly really speak against God and against Christ and Christ's followers. You see them kind of everything that they do, whether it's their policies or what they do behind closed doors or what they attempt to hide from the public. It's a lot of corruption. And you see a lot of people that hold the Bible high and lie. There are a lot of people like that. But when you speak to these people behind closed doors, it's almost immediate. You can tell who's legitimate and who's not. And you look at some of the Republicans like Dan Crenshaw and others who hold the Bible high and lie. You can't imagine a worse sin to pervert really the word of God and to use it politically to bankrupt your country, to steal, to be corrupt, like we just covered. Those people really are the worst of them. And one of the people that's been in Washington, D.C. the longest and really has been one of the worst members is Adam Schiff. Folks, Adam Schiff was a representative, one of the highest-ranking representatives in the House. But after Dianne Feinstein passed away, Schiff moved his election over to the Senate, the U.S. Senate in California, and he won after funding a Republican named Steve Garvey against himself because in California's system, they have a jungle primary. In other words, it doesn't matter if the top two individuals in the primary are Democrat, Republican, both Democrat, Republican, Independent, Democrat. It doesn't matter what party they are. The top two vote getters advance to the general. So being in a liberal state like California, Adam Schiff understood that if he was going to win the general election handedly, he was going to have to get a Republican to come in second place. So he bought millions of dollars in ads for Steve Garvey, and it ended up working for him, and now he's in the U.S. Senate. He had an interview yesterday in which he slammed Kash Patel, attacking him viciously, calling him a glorified internet troll. We're going to get into how ridiculous that is in just a second. He accused Eileen Cannon of searching a federal judgeship when that's exactly what Juan Merchan and all these other anti-Trump judges are doing. He simply attacks Cannon because she told the truth and didn't cower to Jack Smith and his rabid prosecutors. And he even attacks Tulsi Gabbard, the pencil neck himself. He says he has extreme concerns. This is a woman who served her country, Adam Schiff. How much military service have you had? How many people have you helped in the military, Adam Schiff? The answer is zero. And when you look at Tulsi Gabbard, a woman who volunteered, put her life on the line after 9/11 to go serve in the Iraq War, it was people like Adam Schiff who sent Tulsi Gabbard to fight in the Iraq War. And we now look at that and say, the death, the destruction, was it really worth it? So Adam Schiff, people like that, have no problem sending people like Tulsi Gabbard to die in foreign wars for their causes so they can enrich their friends in the military-industrial complex. That's not a problem. But when Tulsi Gabbard gets elected with a coalition of Democrats and Republicans who have been in a national mandate sent to Washington, D.C., to change the way things work, to, most importantly, reform the intelligence agencies, then Adam Schiff doesn't want you anywhere near that because you're good enough to fight in his wars, but you're not good enough to serve in his government. That's what Adam Schiff and the Democrats really believe when they trash Tulsi Gabbard or they trash Kash Patel or any of these people. Let's roll this clip. It's a little bit long, but we're going to dissect how wrong Adam Schiff is and the attacks that he's levying, why he's levying these attacks right after this. Just unbelievable stuff from the pencil-necked, watermelon-headed senator from California. Let's roll that.
Senator Adam Schiff of California. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee and a former member of the House January 6th Select Committee. Jack Smith, for now, that case is on hold. What do you make of Aileen Cannon's role in this? Isn't she no longer relevant to the case? She threw it out.
She shouldn't be relevant to the case at all. But, of course, it's shrewd of the Trump lawyers to go to her, as she has been unfailingly willing to carry Donald Trump's legal water in her own courtroom, making judgments that are unsupported by any precedent, but nevertheless can delay things. And here the object may be to see if she can delay any resolution of this until Trump is in office, his criminal lawyers are running the Justice Department, and they can make the report and all the rest of this go away. So her role has been clear from the start. I don't know whether this is auditioning for the Court of Appeals or what it is on her part, but nevertheless, completely out of the mainstream judgments. And here's another one, but most particularly as it pertains to January 6th. She has no interest, her defendants in her courtroom have no interest in that. There's no basis for her to withhold or order the withholding of that report. So this should be an easy one at the Court of Appeals and beyond. And what is so galling here is the president successfully escaped any kind of justice from the Justice Department 4 years after the fact. So in 4 years, the department could not bring him to trial. Now, not all on the department, big piece of it on the department for waiting so long, big piece of it on the Supreme Court for this horrendous immunity judgment. But here, the only kind of accountability left the Justice Department can provide is the public disclosure of his misdeeds. And they need to persevere with this.
I appreciate the elegance of your saying the Justice Department, not Merrick Garland, because Merrick Garland had a lot of decision-making power. And it does seem that when the January 6th committee delivered on a silver platter what should have been an indictment, he went around it with Jack Smith. That proved to be the opening that Aileen Cannon needed. So now there are other openings, at least theoretically. Joyce Vance, our wonderful friend and frequent guest on this and other shows, she said the following. Trump's DOJ, once he's in charge of the DOJ, can either move the cases for Walt Nauta and Donald Trump's former aide in Mar-a-Lago to trial, which would be an interesting spectacle, or Trump can pardon. The DOJ can dismiss the case. And if any of that happens, then congressional Democrats would then already have the report on the classified documents ready to release. And new leaders of the DOJ would have to decide how much they're going to let Trump dictate their work. Do you see a scenario where Democrats simply release the report yourselves?
Well, I think that under the precedent, it would only be shared with the chair and ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. And by shared, I don't know whether that's read and retain or what process that is. But I think the most likely scenario in terms of this new Trump Justice Department is they're going to want to make that case go away.
Sure.
Not only to reward people that might have been part of the plot to obstruct justice in the case of that DOJ investigation into those classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, but also because what comes out during the trial would be damaging to the president. So they're going to want that to go away. They want all of this to go away.
Sure.
And sadly, they will largely have the power to do that. Now, in theory, when that case goes away, if that's what they do, then there's nothing to, no argument to be made that the report should not be, that second volume on Mar-a-Lago should not be made public. There's no longer any argument. Do they need an argument? Does Trump need any argument? No.
Yeah. You're on Judiciary. There are going to be some hearings coming up. And I wonder which ones you find the most alarming, whether they're in your committee or not, the confirmation hearings. You have Pam Bondi that's coming up. You obviously have a Secretary of Defense who's a television host from Fox, who would be replacing a four-star general and who has some allegations against him from women and also from his former colleagues regarding his use of funds. Marco Rubio is obviously coming up for Secretary of State. We've got them up on the screen, a lot of the people who are coming up. Is there one that particularly concerns you?
Well, I think the one that is so clearly, patently unqualified is Kash Patel, the nominee for FBI director. This is someone who is essentially an internet troll who rose to the level of his willingness to debase himself for the president. He has no business running the premier law enforcement agency in the country. He has said he wants to close down FBI headquarters and open up a museum to the deep state. This is not someone you want leading a department that has to try to protect us from another attack like the one we saw in New Orleans, or investigate what happened in Las Vegas, or attack the fentanyl problem. No, this is a political hack. And so that one should be easy. Now, whether it's easy or not will depend a lot on my Republican colleagues. There are concerns about a lot of the other nominees. I have profound concerns about Tulsi Gabbard. This is someone with no experience in the intelligence world, someone who has shown horrible judgment when it comes to dictators like Bashar al-Assad, who has echoed Kremlin talking points. Is this someone you want whispering into the president's ear during national security crises? I don't think so. I will retain an open mind until the final judgment and the background investigation are done. But those are two heavy obstacles for her to overcome, in my view.
Yeah, Senator Adam Schiff, you are going to have quite an interesting sojourn as a United States Senator, and so we will be watching, and please feel free to come back anytime to keep us updated, and we're going to be thinking about and praying for your state.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're talking about Kash Patel, an internet troll. Let's just debunk that right off the bat. This was a guy that was chief of staff, Kash Patel, to the acting Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller. He was also a senior advisor to the acting Director of National Intelligence, Richard Grenell. He was also working with the House Intelligence Committee Chair Devin Nunes when they were unveiling and revealing some of the most damning facts about the Russian collusion hoax. Remember, folks, Adam Schiff, a key architect of that Russian collusion hoax, and the reason why he's so adamant at stopping Kash Patel is because Kash Patel has the receipts, folks. Kash Patel has been involved over his career in investigating exactly what occurred in the Russian collusion hoax. So he knows that Adam Schiff and other members of the Washington political establishment, people like James Comey and others, he knows exactly what they did. He knows exactly how they did it. And he's going to dismantle their ability to do anything like that in the future. That's why they oppose Kash Patel. They don't oppose him because they don't think he'd be effective at his job. To call him an internet troll when he has served this country, he was a federal prosecutor at the U.S. Department of Justice. So Adam Schiff, who tells you that nobody at the Department of Justice can be criticized, you can't possibly do that, just called a former member of the Department of Justice an internet troll. Adam Schiff is a liar. Adam Schiff is a pencil-necked watermelon head. This guy, the only reason he's in Congress right now is he exists in the most corrupt group of people in the United States of America, the California Congressional Caucus. These people are the worst people in the world. The fact that Adam Schiff would sit up there and have the gall to criticize a military veteran, Tulsi Gabbard, over concerns that she is a security concern is unbelievable. She was good enough to serve in the wars that you voted for, Adam Schiff, but she's not good enough to serve in Washington with you. Why is that? I'll tell you why it is, folks, because just like Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard is fully awake to the schemes going on within the Democrat Party. Tulsi Gabbard served as a vice chair to the National Democrat Party. You're talking about a major position in which she really got to look under the hood of the Democrat political machine, see how it works, where it works, and why it works. Her defection from the Democrat Party, considering that just in 2020 she was a presidential candidate, it was a huge factor in this election. It showed so many people that were on the fence that Trump intended to be a president for all Americans, not just for Republican Americans or Democrat Americans, and that Trump's policies were broad in the sense that they appealed to people on the political right, on the political left, and in the center. While Joe Biden's policies, enacted really by that gang of liberal staffers sitting behind him, are really some of the most far left policies we've ever seen. And trust me, Adam Schiff signed off on all that as a member of the House of Representatives. Adam Schiff signed off on the bills, the massive spending bills, the American Rescue Plan that rescued nothing, the Inflation Reduction Act that reduced no inflation, in fact, increased it. He signed off on all those bills, folks. So when you go to the grocery store and you see that your bread costs 5 times what it did 3 years ago, when you go to fill up your gas tank and the gas is more expensive than it was when President Trump was in office, you can thank Adam Schiff for that. But Adam, it's okay, because in the Senate and in the House, the U.S. electorate, the voters in the United States, have sent a mandate. So your party isn't in control of the Senate anymore. And your party isn't in control of the House anymore. And your party isn't in control of the White House anymore. So you're just going to have to live with it. And guess what? I think that we will see people like John Fetterman. There's been some talks about some other new coming Democrats siding with Trump, voting for some of these nominees. I think there's a good chance that regardless of all the Democrats oppose some of these nominees, that Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, these people will be confirmed. I do have faith in that. My real fear lies in the Rhino Republicans, your Lisa Murkowskis of the world, your Susan Collinses of the world, who have shown a propensity to betray not only President Trump, but all of his voters. And I would expect nothing more than the weak Republicans, particularly in the Senate, to buckle at the knee of Chuck Schumer, to buckle and fall to their knee at the altar of the Democrat machine, and to ultimately work to reject these nominees. The pressure needs to be applied by President Trump, by his team, who is, I think, doing a great job to make it clear to these U.S. senators in the Republican Party, if you oppose one of these nominees, you will be primaried and you will no longer be a member of the U.S. Senate. Doesn't matter who they are. If they are going to betray the Republican Party, they're going to betray Donald Trump. They're going to betray the voters who just sent Trump to Washington with a national mandate. Then they will be kicked out of the party. It has to be tough, folks. You have to be extremely tough with these politicians, particularly those in the Republican Party, because if we don't get them, the Democrats will. And they are so weak-willed that they really will fall wherever the pressure is hardest. So people need to push, call, of course, be respectful, call your senators, call your congressmen, and let them know we need these nominees approved now. And I say congressman because it's important to allow those members to make it clear to them that they need to make it clear to their senators that there is a mandate here and that the American people are not going to accept what we had last time with 2 to 3 years of them delaying everything that they possibly could. We have more footage to get to today. Adam Schiff, just a disgusting individual. But we have a few videos I want to play from the Jimmy Carter funeral services, some bizarre reactions or interactions, I should say, between President Trump, President Obama, President Bush, and President Clinton. Let's roll the first of those videos. We have a few to get to, but let's roll the first one. Well, there you have it, folks. Obviously, some tension in that group of people. You know, I do want to point out, though, Al Gore was in that second row. And I have a dispute with you, Al. I was tweeting about you last night because you said, I remember this because I'm kind of tipping off my age here, but George W. Bush was president, the first president that I remember. And I vividly remember all of the Gore stuff kind of fading into the night. But an inconvenient truth was something that was pushed on me as a kid. And you said by 2020 that New York City would be underwater, large parts of Florida would be underwater because of global warming. And it's currently, I checked the thermometer last night, it was 38 degrees in central Florida, Al Gore. So where is this global warming? I need the global warming, Al, because you lied to all of us, and now I'm freezing in the state of Florida. There's people watching this right now that are snowed in 6 feet. Where is your global warming, Al? We could use some of it. Just highlights how big of a liar Al Gore is. I mean, didn't that guy invent the internet or something? Unbelievable. We have another clip. This one I really like because Kamala, I have to say, it's pretty amazing to watch her because you've never seen somebody that has a higher opinion of themselves. She is so high and mighty. And while Barack Obama was talking to President Trump, she looked over and the look on her face could have killed somebody. Let's roll that fourth video so people can see Kamala Harris disgusted at Barack Obama. There's some tension here. Well, there you have it, folks. And I just want to point out, I saw this with George W. Bush, too. And I learned this, maybe it's just because Roger Stone, and I've been around him a long time, but when you sit down, your jacket's supposed to be unbuttoned. And I saw it with Doug Emhoff there. These people spend their lives in suits. You'd think they'd figure out how to wear them. It's pretty unbelievable. We have some more video to get to, folks, just before we get out of here for the weekend. I know it's Friday. Everybody's kind of antsy. I hope you had a beautiful week. I hope that you're looking forward to a fun weekend. But I can tell you two people that didn't have a fun time today, and that is Jill Biden and Kamala Harris. Kamala was really walking around this funeral giving death glances to people and stuff. She came to that funeral ready to fight. I mean, and by the way, does it not say everything about an individual if they're not capable of putting their own BS away for a funeral of an individual? If that doesn't encapsulate Kamala Harris perfectly, I don't know what does. Let's roll. Jill Biden and Kamala, for some reason, sitting next to each other, just completely ignoring each other. This is gold.
Started the year as the would-be Democratic presidential nominee, and we all know what happened after that. Again, you didn't see a particularly warm greeting between the first couple and the second couple, but again, we are at a funeral, so one has to take that into account when trying to read the body language of the individuals there.
Well, there you have it, folks. No communication between those two. And we remember Jill Biden, she wore red to the polls. You could see her smiling. Joe Biden put on his MAGA hat and was pictured next to kids wearing MAGA gear. I don't think that there's any doubt that Joe Biden and Jill Biden are completely angry at Kamala Harris. And I've long said, folks, that the only reason that Joe Biden even endorsed Kamala Harris in the first place is to get back at Barack Obama, who was willing and really trying to insert his wife, Michelle Obama, into the race. When that failed, Kamala Harris became really the only option. Or I should say, really, when Biden endorsed her, it made Kamala Harris really the de facto nominee. And that derailed Barack Obama's plans to get back at Trump and really defeat him, because he knew that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden really were not capable of doing it. And let's not forget that it was Barack Obama that tapped Kamala Harris on the shoulder and told her not to pick a Jewish vice president in Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro because of fears within the Democrat Party that Shapiro's place on the ballot would offend Muslim voters in Michigan and Minnesota, two places where the Democrats really underperformed, losing Michigan and winning Minnesota, but by a slimmer margin than they had in 2020. So, for instance, folks, when you look at the situation in the Democrat Party, you look at the tension, it makes sense why Jill Biden, Kamala Harris won't look at each other. And it just kind of speaks. I am all for the drama. It's great to cover here on the Stone Zone, but Slingshot TV, Force of Habit. But when you are examining this, it's really tough to think that this is at somebody's funeral. And these people are incapable of putting their own personal feelings to the side. I've been at funerals with people that I wanted to punch in the face. I've been at weddings with people I absolutely hated. But when you're at a wedding or a funeral, you just ignore it. That person, as far as you're concerned, is your best friend. And if they say anything to you, you smile. And you don't spend your time like peering back at them like Kamala just did. It's bizarre. You just let it go because it's not about you. And I think that really speaks to what the Democrats feel about themselves. Nothing better demonstrates this than this insane video that they posted. I'm laughing because I had to watch this before and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They got all kind of ridiculous stuff in this video. Let's roll the Democrats at rolling out their plan, their master plan to stop Donald Trump at every corner. And let me point out before we get into this, and I'll go line by line and we'll dissect it, but they lie about literally everything they say in this video. It's like, we're going to lower the amount of money you have to spend on your taxes. Wrong. We're going to lower inflation. Wrong. We're going to defend the country. Wrong. You know, they've destroyed the country. They've bankrupted the country. They've allowed 20 plus million criminals to siege our border that are taking over our towns. You can't even go into New York City and find a homeless shelter that isn't overrun with Guatemalans. And we're supposed to sit here and pretend like, the Democrats are doing all this stuff for us. I mean, Chuck Schumer, we played the video earlier this week. Chuck Schumer literally said the only reason the Democrats lost in 2024 is that people didn't realize how awesome they are. And that's not me like making anything up. They legitimately claim that. And just insanity. But let's roll this video put together by the Democrats announcing their plan to block Tulsi Gabbard and, really launch their anti-Trump agenda. Just ridiculous stuff.
Here. Okay.
Okay. How's my tie? Is it okay? It's not straight.
Here we go.
We're different.
Wisconsin,
Rhode Island,
Hawaii,
New York,
from the Great Lakes
to the Mountain West,
the Pacific Northwest,
to the South,
and the Northeast.
coast to coast.
We have differences.
and some disagreements.
But Senate Democrats are fiercely united on this.
We are not here because of who we are against.
We are here because of who we are for. Every one of us
was elected to fight for working Americans.
For American families.
For you.
For you.
For you. We're here to make housing more affordable.
To help working Americans
Keep more of their hard-earned paychecks.
To lower the cost of child care.
prescription drugs
And yes, groceries.
to help small businesses thrive.
And every child have a safe and great public education.
We are here to fight.
Fight.
to fight for Americans.
We will work with anyone.
Anyone,
If they want to make life better for you.
But
If Donald Trump and Senate Republicans
do things to hurt you.
We will fight.
We will fight.
If they come after affordable health care,
If they pursue policies that drive up costs,
if they ignore the threat of climate change,
if they come after our troops and veterans' benefits,
if they take away access to reproductive rights, attack our basic freedoms,
If they try to enrich their friends. If they pay for tax cuts for the wealthy by coming after your paycheck.
your Social Security,
Your Medicare.
They will have to come through us.
through us.
through us.
This is a new Congress.
It is a new day.
we are united.
Determined. Ready.
The 119th Congress has begun. All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's get to work.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's get started.
Well, folks, I mean, most of those people don't show up to their jobs. I mean, I don't know if you knew that, but the Senate attendance rate is abysmal for a lot of them. And the ones that are there usually are pretty much there to jump in front of the camera and make a spectacle of themselves, like Adam Schiff or others. What if Donald Trump passes a law that's going to raise prices? What do you mean? Like kind of like the Inflation Reduction Act that you guys passed that kind of jumped inflation, or the American Rescue Plan that was trillions of dollars that didn't do anything to help Americans and boosted up inflation, gouged them for some more money? I mean, where do you want to go to the federal ban on offshore drilling that the Democrats just did through Biden? That is going to hamper U.S. Fossil fuel production over the next 10 years. Is that what you guys are talking about? That same kind of smart policy that you've been implementing over the last 4 years? And, you know, in that video really encapsulates, they have they're not acknowledged that they just got their asses handed to them in a 2024 election. Those people just got walloped because they didn't do any of that stuff. And in fact, every point they listed, they've actually endangered Americans. It was the Democrats who opened that southern border, who let in the criminal that killed Laken Riley. It was the Democrats who opened the southern border, who allow your streets to be infested with migrants. It was the Democrats in charge that passed the most unbelievably insane legislation you can imagine that have put our country into the position where Donald Trump is elected. See, the Democrats like to have it both ways. They would like you to believe that Donald Trump is a sideshow spectacle that was only elected because of his shock and awe campaign. But at the same time, they don't want to acknowledge the reason that Americans would elect somebody like Donald Trump in the first place. They elected him because you suck at your job. You have failed the American people at every turn. You have destroyed this country from within. You drive in any city in this country, and it's the exact same thing every time. You see a McDonald's, you see a Burger King, you see a bombed out shopping center and a few empty lots and main streets across the country. I'm not talking about New York City, Times Square. I'm talking about the real main streets that exist across this country that are the lifeblood, the economy for so many millions of Americans. They're dead. Not only are they dead, they've been dead since COVID. And if we do not return to that, if we don't get away from what Biden and Obama, and I hate to say it, but what a lot of these people that are closing in on Mar-a-Lago want, the Jeff Bezoses, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Elon Musk, those people don't support free enterprise. They don't want small businesses. In fact, they are only there with the Trump administration because they want the new tax cuts to only apply to them. They don't want you getting a tax cut. They don't want the mom and pop shop getting a tax cut. They want to consolidate everything into their pocket. They want everything else out of business. Those people are evil. I mean, and I don't have to sit here and tell you that. You probably already knew that. But if you didn't, if you're like a trillionaire, you don't get to be a trillionaire by being a nice guy. You don't get to be a trillionaire by caring about anything other than dollars and cents. And not only that, but you don't get to that level unless you've screwed over a tremendous amount of people. And you look at the blood trail that exists behind a lot of these large CEOs. I mean, let's go back in American history, folks, to J.P. Morgan. The original J.P. Morgan killed his own father. I mean, this is provable. In the turn of the century, when the United States was trying to decide really, and this was corporations really fell onto their hands, was deciding whether to go with Edison's AC power or DC power or Tesla's AC power. Westinghouse chose Tesla, and Rockefeller and others chose Edison. And what we at J.P. Morgan, more importantly, chose Edison. But Julius Erving, who was the father of J.P. Morgan, or Julius Morgan, I'm sorry, he was the father of J.P. Morgan. He wanted to go with Tesla. And all of a sudden, Julius Morgan dies in an automobile accident when automobiles went about 20 miles an hour, folks. So the idea that these people are sweet people that care about America. They're just happen to be wealthy. No, you don't get to be a multi 200+ billionaire without basically shanking people your entire life. And that's what these people do. And that's why they don't deserve to be anywhere near government. It's why we need more independent individuals going into government, not just in the United States, but across the world. That's why I wanted to bring up Andrew Tate has announced that he will run for the UK Prime Minister in 2028. Now, folks, if you're watching this on Worldview Tube, in the show right after this, you may see it yesterday or it might even be today, or go check it out on the Stone Zone. I had the opportunity to interview the Tate's lawyer, Joseph McBride, with Roger Stone, of course, my good friend from the Stone Zone and my colleague. And I think, look, my prediction right away, I believe Andrew Tate does have what it takes to win this election. I believe Andrew Tate is a guy that really believes in the values that he preaches. I have not directly communicated with Mr. Tate, but what I have communicated with through surrogates and whatnot, I'm extremely impressed with the man. He does not tolerate really any kind of failure. He does not tolerate weakness. He doesn't tolerate imperfection in a way that I have seldom seen really in my travels here, just in general. And I have to say that of all the people that I've met doing this, Andrew Tate among them, at least corresponded through surrogates and whatnot, I have to say he's somebody that I have the utmost respect for. And anybody that's dismissing this man, saying, oh, he doesn't have what it takes, or, oh, we don't think that he's going to be successful, there's nothing I would not bet against this man. I would not bet against this man because he's not only smarter than most people, he's more resourceful than most people. And I think the relationship that he has with his brother really demonstrates a loyalty, a goodness in the center of his soul that is very rare today. And I would hope that the UK will make its decision and it will elect Andrew to really make the country great again. It's really almost a mirror image of what we have in the United States. You know, for so long, Britain has been devalued, and we've kind of looked at it as a country of the past. And for the first time in my life, Andrew Tate announcing that he's going to run for Prime Minister of Britain or the UK, that just energizes not only the people in the country, but people around the world to say, yes, we want a stronger Britain. A stronger Britain historically has meant a stronger world. And I don't mean, of course, back in the days where they ruled the United States, but post the creation of the United States, Britain has been a great ally to the United States. And I think that if Andrew Tate is able to be elected, you're going to see a tremendous turnaround in that country. He has the resources. He has the media attention. He has the ability. My only question is, how will the censorship move to kind of get rid of him? And what will we see? Because he's already been arrested. He's already been put through the ringer, which is incredibly interesting. And it's why I think if you go on Google and you look up Andrew Tate, UK Prime Minister, you'll see that not many people are posting about it. Well, that's because you're being censored on Google. Go to Bing, go to DuckDuckGo, and you will see that the articles are there. They're just being hidden from everybody because nobody wants to report on this because they know he has a good chance of winning. It's kind of the first test, although it's not in the United States, of a Trump-like figure post-Trump, and seeing how the UK deals with him as an existential threat to what they've done and the corruption that they've kind of harbored over there in the UK. It's going to be incredibly interesting. So all the best to the Tates, and my condolences to their family over the loss of their grandmother over, I believe it happened yesterday. Just a terrible, terrible thing. But you know, I think there is an opportunity here to make life better, not just for ourselves, but for millions of people who have been disenfranchised for a very long time. And Godspeed, Andrew Tate. That's all I have to say on that. Well, folks, that ends our first full week of shows here. We're getting settled in, and I got to tell you, I love doing this show. I love having the opportunity to talk about these important topics with you guys every week. Every day, I wouldn't give it up for anything. So keep sharing, keep watching, keep leaving likes. Let us know what you think of the show in the comments. What do you think about Adam Schiff? I'd love to see what our audience has to say about that. So like I said, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Rumble, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, make sure you leave a like, leave a retweet, share, whatever the platform allows. And be sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of the show. It's so important for us that you guys continue to enjoy the show. The views spell out that you guys are obviously enjoying it. So please continue to watch, share, and have a beautiful weekend. I'm your host, Troy Smith. God bless you. Good night.